Okay, you guys, so I'm driving around with Faiza, here she is real quick, and she was explaining this story about growing up here in South Africa. So as you see, we have Africans, we're going through the downtown area of Johannesburg, but way beyond Keto, what I find very fascinating is the stories of apartheid. So you were explaining your story. Tell us as I film the streets.
Okay, well, I was raised by my gran and I won a scholarship to the first multiracial school in South Africa called St. Barnabas College. And I was sponsored through high school by Colgate-Palmolive.
Really?
A lot of funding came from the United States and from Germany. Our headmaster, Mr. Cork, was very busy spreading this message about our situation in South Africa.
Which was?
Well, the apartheid, the injustice, and our school was very politically aware. In fact, the biggest shocker for me was in 1976, I won the scholarship in the middle of the year, and it was just during those school holidays that the 76 riots broke out in Soweto.
In Soweto.
Yeah. So here I found myself starting the new term in a school that was so different, and the students were so politically aware. Apartheid worked because I came from an area where we didn't know what was going on outside of the area we lived in. And so when I was in St. Barnabas, I was shell-shocked because the students were talking about things that I knew nothing about. They were talking about things my grandmother didn't talk about. And our school was so involved in so many social issues that there were times when 180 students, which made up our school, would stand protesting about things that other colored schools weren't protesting about.
Like the injustice.
The injustice. At one point, we even had a drive against Wilson Roundtrees, and we didn't buy any of their products, any of their sweets and chocolates.
Because they were pro-apartheid.
I'm not sure what the issue was at the time. It was all so beyond me. But what happened was we had a lot of things that we stood up against. And as small as our school was, I had some students, fellow students, detained. When we went to a political rally at another high school, we were all arrested in Standard 9 in our 11th grade.
You were as well?
Yes. And it was quite a shocker. My grandmother was so freaked out. She had to come and claim me. And while we were there, part of the patrons of our school, one of them was Bishop Tutu, before he was a bishop.
Okay, Desmond Tutu.
Desmond Tutu, yes. And the church arranged to have food sent in for the students who were arrested. And one of my classmates was detained for 9 months.
9 months?
9 months. He did not come back to our class. We moved on to the next class. We were in our final year. And he came back to school to finish up, and he was a changed person. He would not speak about politics. He would not speak about the injustice. He would not speak about anything.
Did they torture him?
He didn't speak about that. But funny enough, many years later, I was in the workplace, and in 1995, I met up with someone who was detained during that time. We got to school one day and a number of students were missing from our school.
Wow.
They had left the country, and we didn't know whether they actually left the country or whether all of them made it out. But I came across someone who was in charge of the archives for the ANC, and he was one of the guys who was at school with me. He was a couple of standards ahead. And he had married a Russian woman. He had training in other parts of Africa. And it was very strange to find out from him that when a bunch of students had left, that some that we had asked questions about for many years, some of them hadn't made it out. They actually died before. And with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that went on, a lot of things came out, but it was so hard. There were so many people that were left with so many questions.
So, and then how old were you at this time?
Well, this was through my high school, so this was from the time I was 13, 14, all the way up to 18, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so there's another thing that I want you to do is break down all of the colors like you were explaining before, the Indian, the Malay, the colored, the African, and potentially the problems between like creating that institution of division.
Yeah, okay. You know, sometimes when we get together with friends, we still have some of those deep-seated feelings come up. We have Portuguese friends, and they weren't born here.